So, we had, of course, an episode of Dynamite. So, what happened? So, why do I keep saying so? There is no blood and guts. It had to be postponed for tonight, obviously over the pandemic reasons and other reasons for scheduling reasons. Obviously, they're still trying to build up with a confrontation to be the main event. Obviously, against an interaction with the current and most over top wrestlers in the promotion, with the broken Matt Hardy facing himself against the Le Champion, Chris Jericho as the main event. Not in a wrestling match. I think they would sell that for a fucking pay-per-view, not a real episode of Dynamite. So what would happen? Jimmy Havoc would go off against Cody. The match was okay, went violent. There was one time in the headlock, and I think in a finger four leg lock, Cody was stopped via ear pull. Clinching over the fingers. There was a Cody cutter that obviously was not going to get a near fall. A running lariat through the ropes from all the way from the entrance area, and he clotheslined him to the ring. Jimmy Havoc had some okay parts, but I think it was Cody just stealing the show. I think it was over via Crossroads, and there was a promo involving Jake the Snake Roberts for promo, and they kept censoring. Like, what do you say? You're gonna call. He looks like, I know he had some demons in his past. Obviously, the Fat Fucker still bringing up promos. He has half his hair faded, while he comes around saying, "Give Lance Archer a shot against you, 1-on-1." Like, they're taking Cody's a big deal. I thought he's like supposed to be the president, like the owner of AEW. Comes around being like a top face immediately, even though he got only one shot back in Full Gear for the world title, and now he's proven to be this big deal, even though he still wrestles weekly. And then he comes around doing commentary as well with Kenny Omega, with Tony Giovanni. Somehow Jim Ross and Excalibur weren't there, as well as Taz. That's usually the main guys on commentary. Taz had a stream on YouTube that I did not care to watch at all because I was just fully invested in the TV show. So they came around with I'll give him a shot, but he's like, we'll give him a match. Next week we'll have Lance Archer debut just to see what he can do, because most of what we bring in these vignettes with good, uh, you know, good camera work and shit. It's like, it feels like a 2006 movie of just big tall dude beating the crap out of people. Obviously, if you've seen him in New Japan, if you've seen him back when he was with Tyler Rex, Lance Archer was a mid-carder with a brawling feature of his. That he worked. He was in a Wrestle Kingdom this year that faced off against Moxley and lost the IWGP United States Championship. What happened to that belt after Moxley won it for the second time in a row? Don't know. It was a good opener with things yet to come, because obviously two big signings. They're obviously trying to build up Lance Archer as this big threat, and they don't have a lot of big wrestlers other than Luchasaurus and now Lance Archer, so that's going to be big. Next up was a vignette involving Darby Allin, because Kip Sabian will be going against him, and he goes over that he has a score to settle with the Inner Circle, because obviously they're the guys that continue beating the shit out of him, and then Sammy Guevara crushes through with his own skateboard. Then he comes around wearing the mask. It's unique that they keep making these interesting promos, trying to get more in their characters, like, but it feels, but they every time I just look at Darby Allin, he just looks like a silent ass school shooter. It's so weird. He's so skinny, and it's weird whenever he sells moves, because most of the time I see matches involving him, he suffers the worst punishment. But he's okay. He tossed his T-shirt on or I think a code to Penelope Ford's titties, and then they had a match. Anywhere I'm going with this, pretty much just an okay match. It ended with the Last Supper of some kind of figure four leg lock into a pinfall form for the win. The rest of the match was just counter after counter, roll up after roll up for the pin. the same thing they did for the Cody match because they started going for a chain of pinfalls. There was a back suplex, a toss over the guardrail. The match was okay, and it just ended up a forgettable finish. And they went over the fight he had with Colt Cabana that ended up with him getting pimp slapped and Kip Sabian doing nothing, acting like a soy boy, and he got beaten the shit out of, and then he did nothing about it. So I don't know what this tells about Kip Sabian. You bring this win-loss record up, and still it looks like he just needs that big match to get him over the hump. You give him a win-loss record, so he still has a lot of matches to go. I have problems the way they story tell stuff with the win-loss record. How this makes no damn sense. And I feel like thanks to it's like the smart mentality of wrestling, it's more statistical based and it's so gay, but whatever makes you happy. It also came up with Jake Hager in action against a jobber. I think it ended off a sleeper hold with Jake Hager somehow getting some offense thrown his way until he started booting the hell out of the jobber and then powerbombing him. Moxley came out of nowhere and he got in a fist fight because powerbombed him through the stage to a table. So obviously he came up 100%, said he's coming for blood and he's coming for JK, where he doesn't care if the world title's on the line. Basic mentality for a babyface, and it's nearly the same mentality he had when he won the WWE World title back in 2016. It just feels the same, except Moxley is bigger than his Dean Ambrose counterpart. Chuck, that you have an old wrestling name from the Indies. You bring back that wrestling name after WWE gave you their own name. So it's just so difficult whenever people try to say Moxley or Ambrose. I'm just going to go over him as Moxley currently because that's how he is, and he's currently the most popular guy in the company. And he hasn't defended his title since, and he won it back at Revolution. So I know injuries kind of him off the last week because he was still suffering from an eye injury. He's finally recovered. So is Kenny Omega, and his match was against Sammy Guevara for the AAA Mega Championship. I don't know what this is. I don't know if it's a mid-card belt or something. AAA somehow has made their belt incredibly exclusive. I saw a history of Jeff Jarrett holding on to the Mega uh, Championship for like 200 something days. What the fuck is like? Who are they allowed to win these belts? And shit. So I guess we're trying like Moxley's facing off against the Inner Circle, but instead of like feuding with somebody like Jericho, a guy that costed him his fucking vision, he goes over a guy that just powerbombed him and shit. You can survive a powerbomb. I don't think a gouge to the eye and nearly costing you a part of your career is going to be safe. So yeah. Brody Lee was in action against QT Marshall, and I don't know why in the middle of the match there was a vignette of him like we pray against the weak, we destroy the weak. We are the Dark Order. We do whatever we want, how we want, and I watched. It was a few minutes of a segment of the talk of Jericho of the guys. I love Jericho, but I don't watch his shit like that. I just watch the wrestler. I like the wrestler. I don't like his podcast. I find it weird for somebody like him. But yeah, Brody Lee went over his complaints over the creative decisions that they had for him because they don't have a guy like him. Because he was in New York, they thought because he had a beard and he was tall and he had long hair that he can be a hick. So he obviously didn't think that would work out. His singles career was over at this point. Then he got his release, and now he comes around squashing QT Marshall, coming around looking like a white bread version of Carlito, eating his apple. He doesn't even spit in his face. I don't know his character other than he fucks around with Cody Rhodes. He's my best friend. He's my best friend. What's his character? What's his character? I don't even know if Cody's part of the elite or he's trying to make his own faction. The bitch got his own logo tattooed on his fucking neck like he just came from a nightclub. And he comes around getting squashed. Big boots, tossed around the barricade. QT Marshall, I think he had a move in or something. Brody Lee kept looking at Brandy Rose for some apparent reason. And it was so dumb. It was so weird. And I guess I was supposed to make him threat until he did what looked to be a fake into an Abigail kiss. He took Christopher Daniels with it because he's a short person. Of course, he's gonna sell it nicely. And then he did a discus lariat. So he does the same move that he does in WWE. How unique. So, yeah. And ended up with Brody Lee taking up the win. Then a member of the Dark Order came and tossed a mask at him, asking him to join. That's practically it. Until, yeah, that's practically it. I didn't care. I just wanted more like established wrestlers. Probably they'll get some guys from the SCU to face off against the Dark Order or something. Just something to make it more legit than just make a squash match just to get Brody Lee into the AEW field. Cody Rhodes on commentary was pretty good. It was pretty good. Got more in depth into the wrestling moves. I like the way he still had like the emotional contact, but he called it as it is and was immersed in the wrestling matches. So yeah, pretty okay match. Forgettable, but it was a debut for a top signing. So take it as you will. He'll have more important matches when the year goes on. I hope AEW treats him better than WWE. They seem to do that with a lot of underdeveloped wrestlers like Cody. That's practically a main eventer. Moxley, Jericho. I'm not seeing a lot of because they don't have a lot of homegrown guys. Most of these guys are just top signings they got from WWE or the indie slop. And Lucha Underground pissed because Lucha Underground's on not even on life support. They pulled the plug. Somebody pissed on his grave and then pistol whipped him with Lucha Libre CDs or Mucha Lucha, whatever it was called. Mega Championship defended somehow. This is like their mid card belt or something. Because this is like the only thing like I ever see a next singles belt defended next to the world title that's ever like important. Because I remember I think Kenny beat Ray Phoenix, defended it once on Dynamite like a few months ago, and that was technically it. I didn't find any reason for this match to exist other than like Sammy Guevara was in action, and the match was pretty good. I thought it was a bit too much. Trying to get like super kicks or fireman carry into a super kick with a fake follow-away slam into a knee. A couple of V triggers, reverse Frankensteiner, uh, run up into a Meteora. It was just spot after spot, very little storytelling. And this is like Elite versus, so they were trying to be like the Elite. We're supposed to get a win up from that 6-man tag the last week, so we can get a win up from the Inner Circle. Yeah, yeah. Cody was trying to like oversell this so much. It was like we postponed Blood and Guts. Just admit it. I don't even know. We forgot that Kenny Omega was even holding on to this belt. We didn't even know how many people he defended it. Why is he still champion even though he had been having a hand injury for the last 3-4 weeks? Anybody wanted to bring this up to question? The strategy was literally just Sammy Guevara targeting the previously injured hand of Kenny Omega when he was just trying to put up some right. So the smartest thing he did was just crank his thumb into the damn ropes, than kicking his hand. There was barely any counters for the V triggers. He had nothing to do for that, except for the double arm cradle into a knee that got countered into a fake roundhouse kick. Started getting pictures of Jericho himself and then Brandy kissing weirdly Brandy while Cody was watching. Kissed the picture of Brandy, then ripped it. I found that incredibly cringe. And then Kenny just continued beating the shit out of him. It ended up with a one-winged angel off another V-trigger for the victory. And a pretty alright match. Best match of the show. Pretty fast pace. Basic mid-card match for the main event. I just thought it to be forgettable. Because we forgot that Kenny was doing any of this. Holding on to 2 belts because he was injured. And they only did it because he wasn't competing because still of a hand injury, but they didn't even remember that he was a tag team champion, so this was dumb. But that was the matches. The main event was, of course, the altercation with Matt Hardy and Chris Jericho. And it came over Chris Jericho. I thought this was pre-taped because it was like, what the fuck, Matt Hardy coming from the crowd till he teleported near the ring apron, coming around, uh, deletion. It was funny with Jericho reacting with him, going over him revitalizing his careers. Jericho trying to embrace Vanguard 1 to join the inner circle. That was the funniest thing. I don't agree with your political views. You agree for the Dark Order. That's so weird. It was so funny at the same time as well. It also came up to bringing up that for a majority of the career, Matt Hardy has always been cast into the shadow of Jeff. So I thought that was like great, like harsh. It brought up more personal stuff. Brought up that Matt Hardy's 3,000 years old. Like he was really trying to oversell that it's a gimmick, and he got some guy that's actually going to take a gimmick seriously, trying to sell it off. And then it ended up with Jericho coming around attacking Vanguard, Matt Hardy until Sammy Guevara came with a chair. Then they started attacking until Kenny Omega and Cody came with a chair and beating the shit out of him. Then delete. Obviously, people can do it in their computers. You can't do it in the crowd because obviously they weren't allowed to come. It was over. I like the way Matt Hardy was even referencing that even your theme song's over, and then he comes around mocking the song and kept singing it. It just felt cringe because only people in the crowd are the commentators. They didn't have the wrestlers out for watching the match like last week. That I thought was cool. It would be more easier to make feuds. So they didn't do something like that, even though I thought that was a good idea because you actually had people that were actually supposed to be involved because they're working there. So they were always doing these backstage segments while these guys viewing the match, so they don't get the fucking coronavirus, even though you put them in a secluded area. Oh God, this was a pretty good show. This was a pretty alright show, but this got a 5 out of 10. I thought the matches were lackluster, other than the last match of the show. This didn't tell much of a story. You get to see Brody Lee in action at least. Uh, Lance Archer, the way we barely get a debut from him until next week. So what this was underwhelming. Blood and Guts will be postponed. The saving grace of the show is obviously the Matt Hardy and Jericho segment. Rewatch that if you liked Matt Hardy or you've been watching Jericho for a long time, so you get to see personalities like that collide with an okay feel good moment involved with the inner circle standing tall. And Moxley's back, so there's some positives. So that's technically it coming from a DST show. This was a fine episode of Dynamite, but until the crowd comes back, we're actually like full blown back in wrestling. Because like WrestleMania will have no crowd, Dynamite will have no crowd. A lot of shows will be having any crowds to make sure they stay safe from this pandemic. Because we're now like in the 60,000s with niggas getting this. So this is scary as hell. So I know this will blow over. I know this won't be like a huge pandemic. Like I'm not wearing a fucking mask reviewing this. I'm at home. So that's practically it coming from the DST show. Like, comment, subscribe if you want more of this, and you'll hear from me later.